Hey all, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to Countdown Day. That's right, we're going to do the results this time for leadership again. Last week we looked at the top 10 worst Autobots who could lead the Autobots. Well, following that, a lot of people said, hey, you're going to do the same thing for the Decepticons? Yeah, baby, and that's what we're going to do here. Present to you, as voted on by fans, the results of the top 10 Decepticons who would be the absolute worst leaders. That's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you are at it, light them up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of them are in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you happen to be in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through Spring. Or, of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And this is, as I said, the top 10 Decepticons who would make the worst leaders, right? They just lack leadership qualities for whatever reason, right? The Decepticons should not follow these leaders. The intention, just like with the Autobots last week, was for voters to pick a character who's never been a leader. It didn't really work out with the Autobots last week. Some people did vote for bots that have been leaders, like Optimus had votes, Rodimus had votes, Grimlock in the comics he had led, so he had votes. So I ended up having to accept that. But the caveat is that that was me opening the question wider than the original intent. Same thing happened here. There are characters who got votes who were in fact leader, but maybe shouldn't have been. I didn't want to include it here, but again, because of voting habits and how people interpreted the question, I can't really argue it, so I had to leave the net cast wide. I will say this, the voting was furious and it was unpredictable, and number 1 and number 2 were so neck and neck that they are actually separated by 1 vote. 1 vote separates number 1 and number 2. And number 1 was not who I thought it was going to be. So, do we have any honorable mentions before we get going? We do indeed. Honorable mentions. These ones got votes. They did not get enough to actually rank. Although, personally, I feel like either of these could slot into one of the slots taken up by somebody who has been a leader. So, if you're somebody who, when we get to a certain number, and you say, oh, that guy actually led, well then take that one out of it and put one of the honorable mentions in there. It's simple as that. So our honorable mentions, one is Rumble. And kind of the reasons given for Rumble getting votes was he's young, he's impetuous, he's like a brat, he's definitely violent, he's a loudmouth, he doesn't think things through, he's rash. All of those true about Rumble. And he did not have any qualities really that would make him a suitable leader. I agree. The other is, and I love this one, Lugnut. Big bruiser, loyal to Megatron, but man, oh man, there's no way he'd be able to lead his own self out of a paper bag, let alone an entire army of Decepticons. I really think Lugnut should have been on the list. I really do. But they didn't get enough votes. Officially, according to the votes, they were just under the wire. So, what are we going to do now? We're going to do like we always do, man. And we're going to kick things off, of course, with number 10 first. Now, number 10 is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, where we have somebody on the list who was a former leader that, I don't know if they necessarily should have been on the list, but you know what? The voters are the voters, and the voters voted for Galvatron at number 10. Said, quite simply, he's insane. All he does is berate, belittle, insult, attack, and injure his own troops for their incompetence and failure, when the reality is he's out of his ever-loving mind. Not great leadership qualities in any way, shape, or form. Some said Unicron got it wrong when they reformatted Megatron. Others said no, he was fine then. What happened was the lava bath. That was the thing that kind of ruined everything else. Galvatron, yeah, again, a former leader. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Lugnut be at the number 10 slot, but I can't argue with the voters, and enough voters feel like he was a crummy leader that old Galvatron takes the number 10 slot. Now, number 9 is one that in at least one fiction he did lead for a little bit. I can't say it was really effective and it didn't last super duper long, but it was certainly terrifying at the time. However, this particular version I don't believe ever did lead, and it is, Trypticon. Specifically, I believe the G1 Trypticon. In Cyberverse, I think it was Cyberverse. I don't think it was our idea. I think it was Cyberverse. At one point, like, he sort of led the Decepticons. It was a bit of a story arc. He was definitely menacing and imposing. Was he effective? That's up for debate. But generally speaking, those who voted for Trypticon said, he's huge, he's strong, and he's powerful, but he hates the Decepticons pretty much as he hates the Autobots. His only focus is on Metroplex. He really doesn't care about anyone or anything else. He was easily duped and easily led away, or stolen, if you will, by Octane, and really didn't care. He wouldn't be a good leader because he really doesn't care about anybody or anything else except himself. And everybody and everything else is really beneath him and not worth him wasting his time on. Unless it's gonna help him battle Metroplex. Yeah, couldn't care less about anyone but Trypticon, and that's why he takes the number 9 slot. Number 8 takes us to the Seekers and a Thundercracker. A lot of people that voted for Thundercracker said quite simply, he's just not into it, right? He's just not that into you, Decepticons. A lot of people said, like, he's not that loyal to the cause. He questions if it's even worth the war. Is it worth the fight? Are we even accomplishing anything? Is any of this worth it? Some people said, look how far he went in IDW. So much so that, you know, he ends up kind of like leaving the cause, becomes an actor, gets a dog. Why not? Dogs are great. But Thundercracker, because he's not committed to the cause and kind of couldn't care less, wouldn't necessarily be a great leader for an army, and he takes the number 8 slot. For number 7, we stick with these Seekers and we go with Skywarp. And Skywarp is here. Some people said because he's insane and crazy. I've never known Skywarp to be insane or crazy, so I don't know what they're talking about. But other people said that they voted for him because they said he's so wildly unintelligent. And I said, why is he wildly unintelligent? And they said, he has one of the most devastating powers in all of Transformers, the ability to teleport. And he uses it very infrequently, and when he does, he really only uses it to kind of pull gags on other guys, and really doesn't use it to its full potential. A lot of times he gets bested in battle because he forgets he even has the ability. How can any of that be a sign of good leadership qualities? Terrible in battle, not very intelligent, kind of crazy. All things Skywarp, and all things that would make him a terrible leader, and he takes the number 7 slot. At number 6, we have Soundwave. And while I think Soundwave is certainly logical and efficient, while I think Soundwave could certainly have great plans, let's be realistic, he's an unchrasmatic bore, right? Who would ever follow Soundwave? Yes, unchrasmatic, you see what I did there? Who would ever follow an unchrasmatic bore like you, right? I mean, yeah, his charisma is definitely lacking. Dude just does not have the riz. But that would be something very important for a leader to have, because he can come up with all the best plans and all the best strategies and all the best spying in the world, in the universe. But if he can't rally the troops because he's not able to deliver a speech that gets them going, that really pumps their energon through their circuits, then what use is he? How is he going to bolster anyone? Great follower, great scientist, great spy, not a great leader, because truth is, the guy's just dull. Rather than, you know, getting pumped up to go and defend the Decepticon cause, you'd probably only want to take a nap. And for that reason, Soundwave takes the number 6 slot. Ah, yes, and now a hush falls over the crowd because we have reached the ever-coveted, ever-popular halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we go to Season 3 and Octane. And I thought that this was an interesting one to keep getting votes for. So I would have never ever thought of Octane, but people that voted for him said, look, he's a coward, he runs away from his responsibilities, he's a traitor, he stole Trypticon, he makes his own deals, he doesn't care about any of the other Decepticons or the Decepticon cause, he's loyal to absolutely no one, he doesn't care if they succeed or if they fail. He is, while all Decepticons are self-serving, Octane is probably the most self-serving Decepticon. It was those reasons and so many more. I mean, all ways around. If there was ever a guy who just relied on himself and nobody else and said that, you know what, there is an I in team and that I is me, Octane, yeah, it would definitely be this guy. No use for anybody else. No sympathy or empathy for anybody else. Octane's all about Octane and only Octane. And if it doesn't serve him, he's gonna get the heck out of Dodge as fast as he can. Octane takes the number 5 slot. Number 4 is a dimwit, and he smells bad, and he's gross, and he oozes, and he has a weird alt mode, and he's already a follower. It's Blot. Yeah, Blot would, no, Blot is gross. And that's the only way you can describe it. Blot is gross. He has this, I think it's a corrosive ooze. If it's not corrosive, it certainly smells bad. And it's one of his defense mechanisms. His monster mode is weird and arguably effective. He's a good bruiser. He's a good warrior. He's great for frontline infantry. But, to be a leader, to use strategy, to use an intellect or intelligence, he's one of the primitives, right? He is low on brains, big on brawn. And for that reason, Blot, he'll never be leader and takes the number 4 slot. Coming in at number 3, we have Blitzwing. Actually, it's weird. There were a mix of votes here for G1 and animated Blitzwing, and I was like, you know what? Instead of taking up 2 slots on the list, because there were enough votes that both versions of Blitzwing would have made the list separately, I said, you know what? I'm just going to put them together and talk about it all at once. And I'm going to use the Generations one. So when it comes to the G1 voters that voted for Blitzwing there, they said, look, you don't have to look any further than Triple Takeover. And even if you want to go past Triple Takeover, later on in Season 3, he kind of loses loyalty to the Decepticon cause. He's not really in it. So much so that he even talks to Autobots, right? So he takes himself out of the cause a few times. The one time he tries to be leader with Triple Takeover, let's be realistic, it just didn't work. I believe it was Blitzwing who used a football stadium and a coach to help him along. It didn't work because it's Blitzwing. Those that voted for animated said, look, the guy doesn't even know his own self. Which personality is the true Blitzwing? And I chose this one because he does have the face flipping gimmick where you have the the regular face, and then you have the crazy maniac face, and then you have the, which one was this? Yeah, the monocle face. A lot of people said they had issue with this and that the paint scraped on the faces and stuff. Mine never ever did. This isn't mine now. I use the Titan's Return as mine. Really detest the Legacy. It wasn't for me at all. Ew. Ew. Love this. Fix the arms. These arms, these shoulders, they work fine now. They work absolutely fine. They don't, both of them, neither comes out. I love this mold. A lot of people hate it. Nevertheless, I digress. Whether you're talking about the ineffective G1, ineffective and lacking loyalty G1 version, or the out of his mind, dissociative identity disordered animated version that hung around with Lognot, either one. Blitzwing is great for blitzing, not great for leading, and he takes the number 3 slot. And here we are at number 2, and at number 2 we have Starscream. Yes, the third of the main seekers, Starscream. There have been times where Starscream has certainly been an effective leader in certain fiction. There have been times when he's led certain missions and been all right. He is the air commander after all. But in general, Starscream is prone to cowardice. He's prone to retreating, even though he'll be the first one with all the bravado to say, don't retreat, even though he's probably gonna. He is more self-serving than a lot of Decepticons, but he doesn't want others to see that or believe that, even though everybody knows it. He tries to present himself as not only capable, not only confident, not only competent, but he tries to present himself as tough, as able, as capable, when the reality is he's scared. He's unsure of himself. He lacks confidence. He's a coward. He's a fraidy cat. And the one time that he finally seized power, it was his own arrogance and bravado of having to be crowned and have a coronation that really sort of led to his downfall. Because the whole reason he took leadership was because he abandoned Megatron. Threw him out, right out the side of Astro Train. And it was Galvatron seeking that revenge that was going to be his downfall. His own hubris, his own pride, his own arrogance is exactly why Starscream would never make a good leader. And he takes the number 2 slot. And now here we are, number 1 by 1 vote. 1 vote! 1 vote is Swindle. I was shocked that so many people voted for Swindle. I was like, this is nuts. Never saw it coming. Never expected it at all. But the reasoning was pretty logical, honestly. They said, look, he's only concerned about profit. He's a salesman. He's not even concerned about battle. He's not concerned about glory. He's not concerned about the Decepticon cause. There have been times in certain fiction where he said, make money, not war. Make profit, not war. Make war only if you can get profit from it. The best thing to do is not be involved in the war, not fight, but sell to both sides so you can make the most profit. In other words, he wouldn't be an effective leader because all he thinks about is profit and money. It's kind of like, if you're a fan of Star Trek, it's kind of like the Ferengi. And the Ferengi would never make good leaders of anybody because all they care about is making money. And there's nothing wrong with caring about making money. But if you need to lead an entire army and that's the only thing you care about, you're probably not going to win at anything. You're probably not going to win any of the battles. You're probably not going to make any of your goals come true because unless it's making you money, you really don't care. I get it. I understand it. For him, it's not incompetence. For him, it's not even laziness or cowardice. For him, it's that his priorities just don't align with those of a leader. His priority is financial, and a leader needs their priorities to be ideological. Yeah, this guy takes the number 1 slot for Decepticon that would make the worst leader. And that's it. We've gone from 10 down to 1 once again. Other ones that had votes. Devastator, Jetfire. I thought that was an interesting one. Cindersaur, Skybite, Scatterbrain, Bay vs. Wheelie, because of course he was a Decepticon. Mohawk, Grimlock in some iterations, but he's still a Grimlock. Hook, Frenzy, Breakdown, Turn. I thought that was an interesting one. Dead End, I get it, so much doom and gloom. Astrotrain, Razorclaw, Kickback, Cyclonus is a bad leader. A lot of people said he didn't have the confidence. He was happy to stay number 2, right? Who else do we have here? Motormaster, Sunstorm, Octopunch wouldn't be a good leader. Igor from the movies. IDW Spinister, apparently he's a moron, I don't know. Snapdragon, Clobber, yes, Cyberverse Clobber for sure. Kakuryu, which is of course one of the members of Dino King. Honestly, Dino King, any of those members, none of them are that bright. Brawl, I thought Overlord was going to make the list, but he didn't. Deceptiton, Energon Snowcat, Ramjet, any random Transformers Prime Viacon would probably be a bad leader. Tidal Wave, Menasor, Counterpunch. Of course, Punch had a couple of votes last week. Trigger Happy, Misfire, Apeface, Slugfest, Cybertron Thunderblast, Buzzsaw, and for good measure, Nacelle and Knockout. Them and more. Yeah, a lot of great characters. Great at what they do, but not necessarily a great leader. Let me know if your favorites made the list or not. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and don't forget that somehow, someway, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference in the world, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way right here, inside the videos.